Boom, boom, boom. Well, that was a bit of an internet hiccup, but we're live with the Thursday evening OpenFlip fireside chat. We have with us this evening Julie Schell, Matthew, and I'm trying to remember Matthew's name. It's Whitson, right?
Yes, that's exactly
Matthew
right.
Whitson and Yolanda Cham with us from Texas, and Guadalajara. I'll let you introduce myself, and then I'll push some buttons over here on Twitter. So I'll start with Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Schell. Welcome, everyone. I am the Flip class champion. I flip my class here at UT Austin in a variety of ways, primarily with project-based learning and game-based learning, also using peer instruction. And I've been flipping classrooms since I did a postdoc with Eric Mazur in from 2009 to 2013, and that's where I really kind of got the flip class fever.
Nice. And Julie and I work together on the Flip Learning Network Board of Directors. So we were doing this last night for a meeting. And I'll let Matthew introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Whitson. I am a 9th grade English teacher in Weatherford, Texas, and I am just now starting to learn how to flip my classroom, so I'm excited to be on the journey.
Excellent. Thanks, Matthew. And Yolanda.
Hi, I am Yolanda Cham. I'm from Guadalajara. I work at Tec de Monterrey Campus Guadalajara with Ken Bauer. I started flipping the classroom about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, thanks to Ken. I'm in the computer science department too, and I'm glad to be with you guys. Nice meeting you.
And you're in an excellent location on campus. I'm just visualizing where you are actually.
Nice meeting.
Come visit us in Guadalajara anytime. All right, so the way this open MOOC works, Julie was actually asking what the course is about. It's an open MOOC, connectivist MOOC, where people blog about the topic of the week and look at other people's blogs and share. Some people will watch this live. They'll watch it later. We don't tend to have a lot of active people on Twitter, but I have a couple questions coming on Twitter already. What are you guys discussing? I got to answer Julie here in a second. Oh, sorry, that was Lindsay. And the topic this week is professional educator. So I'll leave it out to, let's say, I'll start with Yolanda. What's your concept of a professional educator, and what does it really mean to be a professional educator and improving your pedagogy?
I think our main responsibility is to let our students experience what we want them to learn, and make them be able to be responsible of their own process of learning. I think those times when we were in front of a class with the whole control and power are back in our days, and we have to change that point of view. So being a professional educator is changing that mindset in our students, because I think in our case, many of those young men and girls, boys and girls, have been studying in this traditional model during their whole life. So changing that point of view and making them responsible of their learning process, I think it's our main responsibility at this point.
Okay. Thanks, Yolanda. And I'll let Justin jump in here. Justin, Matthew's point of view.
I think I lost you, Mr. Bauer. Were you deferring to me?
Yeah, I'm referring to you.
Okay. Uh-oh. Well, I will go ahead and just jump in on what I feel like for me the answer to that question is, and that is to say that I think more and more as I continue to learn, especially about being a first-year teacher and learning this new model of flipped, I'm coming to understand this idea that a professional educator to me is supposed to be a guide, somebody who doesn't necessarily know everything that there is to know about it, but definitely knows where the major path is, and who is willing to go alongside of their students rather than pull them from the front end. So.
And Julie?
So I think that putting the word professional in front of educator is interesting. I definitely agree with both Yolanda and Matthew that student-centeredness is the focal point of a professional educator. It's almost as if the student is the client or the customer in the profession. And to me, the word profession also indicates that there's a craft involved in being an educator. And so part of my craft or being a craftsman or a craftsperson involves continuously refining and perfecting your craft. And so for me, being a professional educator is actually being a constant and perpetual student who's always trying to learn and refine their craft.
I find that of the 4 pillars, this is my favorite one, because we talked about this last night, where it's really important for us to know our strengths and our weaknesses. And I really like being the connector. I like going out and connecting people, whether we're in Twitter chats or Google Hangouts. And for me, the part that's really important for being a professional educator is reaching out and asking for help and helping other teachers. I was talking to a visitor from Melbourne who's visiting our campus today, and we talked about how it's so important to go and see other people's classes, or review their exams, or even review their marking of their exams and their grading processes, and do reflection on your own process while you're trying to help someone else. So that's something I really love about being a professional educator. I'll throw out a question that came in from Luis Miguel. Actually, this came in earlier this morning. It's in Spanish, so I'll say it in Spanish first, because we got Texans and Mexicans and Canadians there. Se puede invertir el aula sin profesor. So can you flip the class without a teacher? There you go. This reminds me of the Rhizomatic course I was doing with Dave Cormier. So what are your thoughts on that? Do we need the teacher in the classroom to flip the classroom?
I mean, obviously someone has to be there to physically organize and facilitate. I mean, so in some sense, no. But I think the idea that I've come to understand with flipping the classroom is that, I mean, you're just making the access, or you're just making the information accessible. And, you know, I think almost you could answer that question with a yes, that you don't necessarily need the teacher. But at the same time, again, it's really a dicey subject, because on top of like basic knowledge acquisition that takes place at home and all of that jazz, you have to have someone who's there that can drive the conversation forward. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting in a pool of knowledge and not really having any forward focus with what you're talking about.
I love this question because there's a whole part, and John Bergman says it often, if you can be replaced by a YouTube video, then you should be. So there's that kind of angle to it, but I think there's a different angle as well, but I'll let Julie and then Yolanda jump in on this.
Sure. So I think that the question, if the question is what is the purpose of the teacher in a flipped class, the way that I see this is that asking if you can flip a class without a teacher is like, can you read a book, or can you be exposed to content without a teacher? And absolutely you can. But John Dewey said that the teacher role, or what the teacher does, is breathe life into subject matter. And actually, you know, if you consider subject matter sort of the bones, the teacher puts the meat onto it. And so I think that definitely you can have a solo experience without a teacher, but an expert who can pull you from where you are to your highest potential is, I think, what the role of the teacher is. So in closing, I think that inherently in the work that we do, we're designers, and so without the teacher, that's just sort of the experience where you would as Matthew said, you're just sort of in a pool of knowledge. But as with a teacher at your side, you sort of have a totally different experience, and you're going along for a ride that the teacher has designed for you. I think our role really comes into play as designers.
Mm-hmm. Or the dungeon master. Sorry for the geek out.
I think the students are able to read whatever they want, watch the videos they can find wherever in the internet, but sometimes they had a pretty hard time connecting the dots. And I think that's where the teacher has a major role. As Julie said, that's experience. That's what experience gives you, the ability to connect the dots and not just absorbing information from their surroundings. And I think that's a major role of the teacher. So I would say no.
And I just, if I can fill in there too, I'm having an experience for this right now. I'm actually taking my first MOOC right now, and there is really no teacher. There's a teacher who's designed it, but there's no real interfacing with the instructor. And I came across some subject matter. I couldn't quite understand the differences between these two concepts. And I posed the question to the forum, but I'm not getting any response. And so I'm sort of left out there. I can't connect the dots, as Yolanda said, because I don't have that expert to pull me from where I'm at to where I can be. So I'm kind of having this experience now of seeing what the use of actually having a teacher is.
So is this like a massive MOOC, Julie?
Yeah, it's a massive. It's a massive.
So it's an X MOOC, not a C MOOC.
Right, and I'm taking it for a certificate as well. So
interesting.
I'm enrolled.
Because I know Yolanda's done one. I've had intentions, but every time I go in, I get bored and I drop out. Maybe that says something. I'm not sure.
I was going to say, and yet you're running one.
Well, but this is different. A C MOOC is much different, where the focus for me is the interaction.
True.
I'm not delivering content. And so it's a succinct difference. And Dave Cormier, which is the guy who coined the phrase MOOC, in one of his last year in Rhizomatic 15 said, what would happen if there was no Dave? Or how would we remove the Dave from this course? One of the discussions. And it was pretty interesting what we talked about there. I find it interesting that in some way in my classes, I don't need to be there. There's been quite a few times I show up late for class. I had an interview once with a colleague that was in Sweden, I think, and she was doing a radio interview with me, and I kept getting cut out, and she was worried, and I said, don't worry, I'll just show up late for class. And I show up, and they're already working, and they didn't need me to be there to start working, so that's a good thing in that way. But I can't just drop out of the picture completely, like Matthew says or Yolanda says. We need to be there to connect the dots for them and give them feedback, like Julie's sitting there waiting for people to connect with her in this MOOC. And I remember Crystal Kirch saying the same thing about one class she took, where nobody did the homework until like basically 10 minutes before it was due. So nobody was interacting about it in the forums. It was really frustrating for her.
Well, I was about to say, if we're redefining what is and isn't the role of a teacher, I mean, if we're all teaching each other, then essentially, no, you can't get rid of the teacher. We're just changing the role of the educator that is the facilitator.
Right. And I'm sure Julie would be just as happy if it wasn't the teacher who answered in the MOOC, but like somebody answer me and someone interact with me. Excellent. And here's another a flip on that question, Luis as well. So can you flip the classroom without a classroom? Who's going to jump? We'll let you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that we have we have an ever evolving definition of what a classroom is. I mean, I definitely have flipped workshops. I've flipped sessions. I know that there are companies who flip trainings. I think that there are plenty of folks who teach online who are flipping virtual classrooms. So I don't think you need a classroom. I do think you need, you do need an organized community of folks who are moving towards a goal together.
Right. Right. And I know Miguel, who's taken the course with us, has been talking a lot about flipping the meetings, and I know he was talking to John about that. And this just came up on Flip Class, where Caitlin Tucker was talking about flipping the back to school night, and April Gunderath jumped in on that. And yeah, that's definitely something a lot of people have been doing as well. Flip everything. Flip your kids. Flip dinner. I don't have any other questions coming in, so we're going to freeform.
Yeah, I wanted to just say that I had a really interesting experience this past semester. I flipped my class using project-based learning. The last class we did, or the last project was for the students to develop a game that would teach about 2 to 3 hours of content. So instead of a workshop or a session, that they would replace that 2 to 3 hours of content with a game that they built to teach the same skills or content knowledge. And I had an interesting experience where I actually wanted to leave the classroom because I thought, I was done for the day. We were done an hour and a half early, and I actually could not get them to leave. They were so engaged with the work that they were doing that I could have left, and they would have kept going. But so it's kind of this thing, do I need to be there? I didn't need to be there, but I needed to set up the design and the foundation to create that, so what I'm calling off-the-charts engagement. I mean, if I can't get the students to leave early because they're so enthralled with what they're doing, I feel like that, to me, was one of the highlights of my career as an educator, to
Yes.
see that and to really want to leave, but I couldn't because they wanted to stay.
And those are awesome moments. I'm finding I'm having that right now with this whole abolished grading where nothing's worth points, and I've avoided this is worth points, so I do it, and this is not worth points, so I don't do it with my students. And I've got students that are staying right through the end of the bell, and they're working on stuff, and my colleagues are saying they're not going to do any work if it's not worth points, but it's happening. It's a grand experiment this semester, so I still have to collect some data and write about it. But that's definitely something that's really cool. You want to jump in on something there, Yolanda or Matthew? That was Yolanda, I think. Is that near you, Yolanda?
No.
Something's coming in.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe Julie or... Definitely you, Yolanda. Yeah, I muted Yolanda for a second. I don't know. Actually, I just found out the link I had on Unit 4 to Audrey Waters' Hippocratic Oath for EdTech post is 404'd, so I should fix it. But maybe that's a good exercise for the students this week, that they could find the post even though my link is broken. So I found it pretty quickly. And maybe Matthew or Yolanda or Julie want to jump in. The concept of the Hippocratic Oath, where Audrey made this analogy to the physician's Hippocratic Oath as teachers, right? I swear to fulfill to the best of my ability and judgment this covenant. I will respect hard-won scientific gains of those physicians, etc. Thinking of an educator taking a Hippocratic Oath of always learning, because Brian last year wrote about this and pointed to Audrey's post when he was really having a tough time with an individual student and almost to the point of having to give up, like just giving up on a student almost. And should we spend so much time on this one student to the detriment of the rest of the group? And what are our thoughts on
I think I might have lost y'all.
how we...
So I think he's how we would. What's our take on a Hippocratic Oath for
educators?
For educators, and do we? What's the sort of morality or the moral choice that we make when we invest in a student who we're struggling with to the detriment of the rest of the group.
Right.
I mean, first of all, I love the parallel between that you can draw between the educator's job and that of a physician who's taken the Hippocratic Oath, and it's really a fantastic parallel, I think, that I've just discovered in reading that. And I think, I mean, that's a really tough situation. I work with a lot of inclusion, and so there is this difficulty, and thankfully I have some fantastic aides that help me through my classroom management and everything like that. But it is difficult to determine how much you should be spending with one student and how much you shouldn't be spending with another. And I think also on some level being aware of and unafraid of letting them almost figure it out for themselves a little bit, so that we don't create this culture of learned dependence. But again, at the same time, how do you balance that?
It's hard.
I mean,
I know. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Julie.
Say, in a situation like that, I mean, I would probably, of course, hindsight is 20/20. But I try to, I think using teams, not groups specifically. I'm differentiating between a team and a group, very purposefully. Having teams and creating a team culture in a classroom can help relieve the teacher of some of the individual attention. I don't know anything about this context, but for me, what I try to do to differentiate that I can't individually teach to the level that each student is at. So for me, one of my strategies for differentiation is having a team-based atmosphere.
And I find that was really, really useful. Yolanda, you can unmute yourself and go ahead.
I think sometimes learning, it's a matter of will, and sometimes the students have a lack of will in learning. Maybe I've seen much of this because we're a private school. We have a very specific profile of students, and I think it's a really huge challenge to improve their interest in learning. And I think that this subject that Matthew was talking about, inclusion, I've been working in special scenarios with autistic kids and a special scenarios of inclusion in elementary school with as a service provider for making technology for those kids. And it's a very different situation because we know that they have a condition, and sometimes we have to earn their interest, their will to call their attention into learning some specific subject, and that's a huge investment of time. But sometimes it's not a disability; it's just that our students doesn't want to, or is not interested enough into that topic. So we have to manage sometimes team collaboration, project, experiential learning, and we have so many balls in the air trying to handle at the same time that it's kind of hard to make up decisions in real time because the time is running and you have to make decisions and go on with the class. So yeah, it's a tough question, I guess.
I find that's the fun and the difficult part about being a flipped class is I don't know what's going to happen each day, and it's totally on the fly, and I get to react, and I think I like that environment, and maybe that's why flipped class works for me. One thing that's interesting, Yolanda was talking about students that aren't really interested in the class. If you follow the blogs of the people taking the course, there's our colleagues from Columbia talking about their English class, and not English literature, but English as a second language. And the degree students just find it difficult to get engaged with that class because they just feel it's something they have to do as part of finishing their degree program. And I know Yolanda probably identifies with some of our students in Mexico who have the same. Any other comments before we wrap up? Alicia Caldera is watching us online, so we have 2 viewers. Yay!
Woohoo!
we get more people that watch it after than live. So, well, I'm not saying we have hundreds, but yeah, some people watch it. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up, Julie? There you are. I think Julie's dropping out. We're having technical internet difficulties this evening. Can we hear you, Julie? I can't hear you now. There we go.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. I get to talk to you 2 nights in a row. We had a great conversation yesterday, and I always like to get a chance to have you online. So people should check out Julie's work on her blog. She's posting more often lately at julieshell.com. If you check out her Twitter handle, it's got a link to her site. And she's doing some recent blog posts that basically the latest one's been about, I'm going to pull the title out of my head, about why flip classes or flip activities fail. Mm-hmm. Why do we fail in flip classroom? Is that right, Julie? Is that the best way to say it?
Yes, sir. And
okay.
My
and
blog,
I owe you my answer.
My blog is at blog.peerinstruction.net, and you can check me out there or find me on Twitter.
All right. And Matthew?
Thank you. Like she said, thank you very much for having me. I'm very appreciative, and I'm excited to see as we continue on in our journey together in this MOOC, and as well as looking forward to letting people know how my first year in flipping goes whenever I start in the fall.
How's it going with that second book? Did you dig through it?
Oh, I have started, but Star has derailed me, but I am making every effort to get things done so that I can spend the weekend reading it.
There's a lot of great educators writing in that book. There's Kate, who joins us on these chats, and Mark Siegel's in there, and Troy Cockram, and there's too many people to mention that I'm going to miss a bunch. But definitely get through that one.
Oh, yeah.
And Yolanda?
I'm excited about it.
Excellent. Yolanda? Oh, did we lose Yolanda? She's all frozen up.
Yeah, that's it.
There you are.
That's it.
Anything to add to Anne?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Nice meeting you. I'm glad that I could make it this time because Ken throw an invitation a few days ago, but I was not able. But thanks a lot.
Thanks for making it, Yolanda. I know you've been busy. You came from a meeting right on campus to go here. So thank you, everyone. I'll wrap up for today. Again, we do these probably, let's see, we got about 3 more weeks of this, Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern and Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're doing this for the next 3 weeks as part of OpenFlip. And I'm organizing a fireside chat as part of the Flip Learning Network program. So I'll be announcing more information about that soon, and hopefully we're doing that at least once a month. And I'll thank everyone for joining us, and I hope to see everyone's cool blog posts about this week's submission. And we'll talk to you soon. All right, I'm going to hang up, stop the broadcast button here.